Hi, this is Chris from the Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from Political Voices Network.
Hi, Jody. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
It's a pleasure to be with all of you and with all of Stephanie's listeners and with all these wonderful people who support gun safety legislation as hard today as we did last week and last year.
Yeah.
I want to thank all of Stephanie's listeners for being the people in America who were the ones who tried to prevent the shooting over the weekend. Thank you, gun safety people. Wow. But don't worry. I don't know if you've heard, but Trump's okay, and they think he's going to be back to inciting violence at his own rallies in no time. Yeah. So we're really happy for him.
Yeah. It's kind of insane, some of the rhetoric that's coming out from the right blaming Joe Biden for this.
Yeah.
Mike Collins from Georgia basically said Joe Biden sent the orders. And as Rude Pundit said earlier, technically that's legal now under the Supreme Court.
Yeah, that actually would be legal. So, I mean, thank John Roberts. Thank Donald Trump's 3 awful nominees to the court. They're also blaming Joe Biden for Vladimir Putin's war of choice in Ukraine. They're going to blame Joe Biden for everything. These aren't, rational people. This is a cult. It's a cult of unmanly, blind obedience. Blind, unmanly obedience. And, we're getting a step closer to seeing what it would have been like to see brown shirts happen. They don't care about the corruption. They don't care that Donald Trump really did it. They don't care that he really took these documents, that he really lied to his own lawyer, lied to his own lawyer about the documents, lied to the court, defied subpoenas. They just don't care. It is their America. And Donald Trump came along and spoke to this shrinking Christian nationalist demographic of white Christian Americans, Caucasian conservative Christians who worship Jesus because they refuse to follow a single one of his damn teachings. And he came along and he scapegoated and told them, don't blame 40 plus years of trickle-down economics. This is because of Muslims. This is because of undocumented immigrants. It's because of transgender kids wanting to play sports. It's because of women wanting control over their own bodies. Scapegoating. And now he was able to convince them of this mythic time when they had political and, more importantly, demographic dominance over this country. So they're a cult. And I just want to say, damn that shooter for taking the day away from Richard Simmons. But, at least now, we've always wondered this for years. What would happen if gun violence ever affected someone Donald Trump actually loved? And now that's happened. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he claims that he is rewriting his speech for the convention. He's not writing it. We know that.
He's not writing it at all. And it's all going to be, it's all going to be anticlimax from this point out. He's going to have to pick a horrible person to be his running mate. Who's it going to be? I know you guys are as excited as me. Let's see this. There's Doug Burgum. He has a beard. And there's J.D. Vance. He has a beard. And there's Tim Scott. And he's engaged to a woman named Mandy.
So it's going to be quite a week. Too.
That's how it plays out.
I with this ruling with Aileen Cannon, like you were alluding to, it is appealable according to Lawrence Tribe and Joyce Vance and others, and they would know because they're lawyers. So that's a good thing. Do you think that the 11th Circuit is going to slap him down? But it'll go back to the Supreme Court at this point, right?
Yeah, it will. And history's going to have to see how much money and privilege can buy off this government. I mean, it was always possible to do this. This could be. I mean, it's the end of the America as we know it. I'm not saying that we're all going to be in a dystopian hellscape, but I mean, with great power comes no accountability.
Yeah.
And they have rigged it in their own favor. And so we just have to be as calm as possible, not be crazy. Should expect to see the brown shirts strutting quite a bit, and just keep it focused on intelligence and decency, and keeping Donald Trump from hiring more judges, because we know exactly what will happen if he does. And they're thinking this is going to go well for them, having a president who's a king. First off, I still think Joe Biden's going to win this thing.
Me too.
I still think Donald Trump's going to lose because I still think people care about Roe, and I don't buy the polls. But it's about to get really crazy. And this never would have happened if Merrick Garland had done his job and Donald Trump was safe in a jail cell away from the shooter this weekend. Trump should have been safe in prison the entire time. Again, we were fighting for Donald Trump's safety. We were fighting to have him snugly behind bars and to make sure that 20-year-old unstable men can't get their hands on weapons designed to kill lots of people really fast.
Well, yeah, I mean, we mentioned earlier that the shooter couldn't rent a car or rent a hotel room in most cities in this country because he was under 25.
Yeah.
But access to guns, no biggie.
That's it. And consistently, it is these males, mainly white males in their 20s, who have shown us time and time again, until you push a button that says white males in their 20s don't flip out emotionally, white males in their 20s should not be allowed, civilians should not be allowed to own this kind of military hardware.
I agree. 100% agree with you. CNN.
But this is what it's like being pro-life in America, Jody. Being actually pro-life is a lonely club. I want to just say I'm glad Trump is safe. For the first time in his life, 2 inches was exactly enough. I'm so glad. Glad it all worked out.
So, so on Sunday, Phil Mattingly basically said, the number of people I've heard from last night, people who aren't diehard Trump supporters, who have just had a visceral response to this on their behalf, was driven by things that have occurred. Democrats have said, he's like, no. The other thing I would say is, look, every speech Donald Trump gives, he talks about if Joe Biden wins, the country dies. So let's be real. It isn't because Joe Biden says Donald Trump is an existential threat. I can read. Both sides are saying the exact same thing here. I'm blaming Donald's rhetoric is way worse than any Democrat I've ever heard.
It's not a comparison. Yeah, no both sides on this. Donald Trump literally told people to beat up protesters at his rallies. He lied and said that he would pay their legal bills. He launched a terrorist attack on the U.S. Capitol where Americans died because of his lies and ended America's 240-year peaceful transfer of power. I'd also mention he sexually assaults women, but I know Republicans don't consider that to be violence anymore, do they?
No, they don't.
So, again, this was a Republican shooter. This kid was a registered Republican. This is them. This is their house. This is their chickens coming home to roost. This is the culture of violence and gun proliferation they have fought for and been so indifferent for. And now there's finally been one shooting Republicans care about. So here's my plan. If we could just get every child in America to dress as Donald Trump every day, and if we got wigs for Donald Trump for every child in America, so every child looked like Donald Trump, maybe the Republicans would do something to prevent the next school shooting. It could finally happen.
Yeah, it is. They're still not even calling for gun safety at this point, which is insane to me. I mean, these people were wearing AR-15s as lapel pins not too long ago.
They can't. They're owned. The NRA used to be a gun safety organization. Then it became a gun rights organization. Hasn't been a gun rights organization for over 25 years. They are the lobbying wing of the gun manufacturers. So the racket is, they'll say, oh, Clinton's coming for, I'm sorry, Obama's coming for, I'm sorry, Biden's coming for your guns. Hearing this my whole life, zero guns grabbed, but they do it because they got to scare you. So every time there's a shooting, they say, I subscribe to their emails. I read these. Biden's coming for your guns. So people believe this, they go out and buy more guns, and that's how the gun manufacturers make a killing every time there's a killing. I'm on the side that tried to prevent this shooting. I'm on the side that doesn't want 20-year-old civilians to have access to machines designed to kill lots of humans really fast. But the NRA paid Donald Trump $30 million in 2016 to keep those particular weapons easily accessible to civilians. This would not have happened if Bush had renewed Bill Clinton's ban, endorsed by Reagan. That civilian Republican kid should not have had access to that hardware.
I agree. I'm glad that Donald is okay. I feel terrible for the man who was killed. And for Donald and others to say, God prevented the worst thing to ever happen.
Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio said the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what blasphemers do. These people aren't Christian, and the media's got to start calling them out. For Marco Rubio to come out and say God kept Trump safe, that is the blasphemer's way of saying God wanted someone dead in the crowd. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, that poor man's family is going through this right now because he protected his family.
But Donald Trump's going to weaponize that. Donald Trump's going to put this man's family on stage at his rallies and get everyone to cheer them. Remember when he sent the troops to Niger and someone got killed and he had his widow come and Trump got a standing ovation for a widow he'd created? That's exactly what's going to happen here. This poor man's family is going to be brought on stage and turned into props to make people feel righteous about voting for this guy who has encouraged so much violence in our communities.
I sure hope that they don't agree to that, but you never. They're Trumpers, so it's likely that they would agree to something like that.
This family is going to be put on stage like Benghazi family members. They're going to exploit the violence for votes.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is going to use this for himself. And by the way, the only time that getting shot turns you into a good person is in the screenplay for the film regarding Henry. This is going to be forgotten in a few weeks.
Yeah.
It's a moment, but it's not going to make Donald Trump a good man. It's not going to make him decent. It's not going to make his economic policies things that are going to stimulate growth for the middle class and working people. It's not going to bring back Roe v. Wade. It's not going to erase his criminal record or his felonies or the fact that he stole classified documents from this country. History will tell the truth. They might have found a way to keep us teaching racism in history class, but they're not going to find a way to keep the world and future generations from knowing the extent of this corruption and how deep and broad the threat to the America we grew up with really is. I mean, Joe Biden's not allowed to enforce existing laws, but he's now allowed to break them.
Right.
Where we live.
Welcome to OK Now You Know. I'm Joe Garner. Today, we're traveling back in time to a hot summer in 1776. A time of revolutionary change culminated in the creation of one of the most important documents in American history, the Declaration of Independence. How did it come to be? And what does it really represent? Let's dive in to the birth of a nation.